MCOM presents Not Cooking with Amy, and here with this week's recipe is your host, Amy Yates.
Hi, and welcome to the show. As you can see, today I'm not wearing an apron and I'm not wearing oven mitts because today we are not baking a cake. Today's recipe is very simple and easy to follow, so even if you're not too handy in the kitchen, you should have no problem following the simple recipe. So today what we're going to need is a tub of whipped cream, approximately 2 bags of cookies, a Ziploc bag, a spatula, knife, or some sort of other spreading utensil, and we're also going to need a hammer. It's not your typical kitchen utensil, but we'll find out why we need that here in just a little bit. So we're going to start off with the cookies. The recipe calls for any thin, flat cookie. I like to use the Oreos because they have the extra cream filling inside. So we're going to start by gently twisting the cookies apart. And gently is the key because we don't want to break the cookies. We want to keep them intact. Try and twist them in a way that all the filling is on one cookie and one cookie is completely bare. If you happen to break a few cookies, that's okay. You have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, and sometimes you have to break a few cookies to make a no-bake cake. So we're going to start by twisting them off, and we're going to start lining the bottom of the pan with our cookies. And go ahead and just the cookies with no filling on them, go ahead and discard those for now. We're going to use those here in a little bit. Just set those off to the side. So twist gently. Okay. And keep in mind, when you're lining your cake pan and you're making your cake, the size of the pan does not actually matter. Just know that you might need to adjust the recipe slightly to fit your cake pan, because what we're doing is we're lining the entire bottom with cookies. Okay, and you can spread them out as much or as little as you want. By the way, make sure your hands are clean before you do this because it's a lot of hands-on activities. We want to make sure that there are no germs going into our cake because we want it to be a delicious cake. So here we go. Now we're taking our discarded cookies. We're going to place those into a Ziploc bag. Don't worry about how many cookies you have or how big your Ziploc bag is. And just make sure, don't overfill it because we don't want too much extra air in there. All right, now is when we take our hammer. And we're going to crush these cookies into then turn them into fine crumbs. And we don't want to hit too hard. It doesn't take a whole lot of force to crush a cookie, and we don't want the bags to explode because then crumbs would be everywhere, and that's really bad. So here we go. And we don't make sure, you can kind of stop and feel them for a little while. Make sure the crumbs aren't too big. Okay, so now that those are all crushed up, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. So keep your ovens turned off and your televisions turned on and we'll hear a quick word from our sponsors right after this. And go ahead and keep crushing those cookies because we want those to be... Anyway, so we're going to keep crushing our cookies. Make sure those crumbs are really small. Okay, now that we are certain that all of our cookies are completely crushed up, we have no big lumps in there, we want a fine crust. When we come back from our commercial break, I'll show you what we're going to actually do with all of these crumbs. Because what we're going to do is we're going to spread, because as you can see, there's lots of gaps in our cookies, and so we're going to fill in those gaps with our crumbs once we come back from our commercial. So stay tuned, y'all. We'll be right back.
Snacks and candy aren't always the best choice for healthy eating.
I wish we didn't have to eat all this junk food when I'm trying to eat healthy, but I really hate fruits and vegetables.
Have you guys tried Fit Chew?
No, what's that?
It's a bite-sized chew that gives you your daily dose of fruits and vegetables without actually having to eat them.
These are really good.
Fit Chew, the future of nutrition.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. Right now we're making our no-bake cake. That's right, no ovens or stoves involved whatsoever. So what we've done is we've lined the bottom of our pan with our cookies and we've crumbled up our extra cookies. So now we're going to take those cookie crumbs and we're just going to gently shake them over our pan. Don't worry about making it too even, just make sure that all of the holes are filled in. Just spread it gently over there, fill in all the gaps. And you can avoid gaps by lining the pan with as many cookies initially as you can. That way we don't have to fill in as much of the gaps with our crumbs. This is just a good way to be economical and use all of your ingredients. So I'm going to fill this in here. Like I said, don't worry about making it too even, just fill in all of your gaps. Make sure the bottom of the pan is completely lined. Okay, so now make sure you don't see the bottom of the pan at all. And if you have some extra crumbs left over, that's fine, so we'll use those again in a little bit. Now we're going to take our whipped cream and we're going to spread it over the cookies. Now unfortunately, there's no trick or secret to spreading this because at this point it does get very gooey and messy. So we're just going to do the best we can, and as even as possible we're going to spread the whipped cream. Like I said, make sure your hands are clean because you might need to get in here and get hands on. We're going to spread that whipped cream across. Try and make it as even as possible. But don't, and once again, this cake it's all about taste. It is not about looking pretty because when it comes down to it, it's going to taste really good when we're finished. But it's a very messy process, and it's very difficult to put it all together. Well, not difficult. It's very messy to put it all together. So don't worry about making it look pretty. Just get it in there. And make sure you follow the instructions properly. So we're going to spread that out. Like I said, as even as possible. You're going to get some of your crumbs picked up in the whipped cream. That's okay. Just make sure that all your cookies and your crumbs are actually covered. But it's going to get kind of gooey and sticky here. But don't worry about getting those stuck. So keep lining the whole plate. Don't worry about getting messy. Just get it in there. And when you're spreading this whipped cream, you want a pretty thin layer for this first layer. You just want to barely cover each cookie. So you don't want to get it in here too thick. Make sure it's spread as thin as possible and as even as possible. And you don't have to worry about any uniformity or anything like that. You don't have to go in a certain order. Just make sure that all of your so you can go back here later and cover all the holes that you may have made. Don't worry about spreading it in any certain order. Just get it all out there. Like I said, it gets really gooey and messy at this point, so don't worry about doing it in a certain order. Just get it done. So we're going to keep spreading. And this part is where it gets a little slow and meticulous. It takes a while to get all that whipped cream out. And by the way, when you're preparing to make this cake, go ahead and have your whipped cream sitting out for a little while, because make sure it's close to room temperature, because that makes it a little bit easier to spread. If it's too cold, it won't spread very well. And so once you're finished spreading this first layer, you're going to repeat the process. We're going to do the cookies again, the whipped cream again. You're going to garnish on the top with any crumbs you might have left over. And this is your cake. This is the final product.